My name is John Miller. I'm the former Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism of the New York City Police Department and a board member for the Soufan Center, and currently the Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst for CNN. I'll be your MC through the day. Welcome back if you're returning from yesterday. If you're here on your first day, just looking at the agenda, we have a fascinating day lined up for you. If you were here yesterday, you saw that we had incredible guests, fascinating speakers, panels that got right to the heart of some of the stuff we think about the most. A couple of panels that just completely went off the rails, which was fantastic. Because, you know, you can only do so much with reasonable discussions while you're trying to, on that third cup of coffee, stay awake. So yesterday was filled with excitement, film, discussions, everything, and today will be just as dynamic. We begin today with David Scott, who is the Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterterrorism Division in New York. Dave is a very experienced guy. Infantryman in the Army, comes into the FBI in 2003 in the middle of probably the most difficult time for retooling and reorganizing and re-engineering the FBI and its thinking in the post-9/11 era, and he has been all over that through his entire career. He's been in Louisville, he's been in headquarters, he's been overseas, he's done it all. But since August 26th, he is the man who's got his thumb on the pulse of the FBI's efforts to detect, prevent, and investigate terrorism. So, Dave Scott.
Good morning. So thank you very much to the Soufan Group for the privilege of being here this morning to speak to all of you. This is one of those summits where it's an honor to be here because the speakers can learn just as much from the audience as the audience learns from the speakers. Looking around the room here today, I see many that I've learned from over the years, reading your all's name tags. I see former military colleagues. I see people I've learned from both the agent side and the analyst side, from headquarters, from Counterterrorism Division, from the New York field office, from the Washington field office. So it's great to see all of you here today. So you heard yesterday several times about the busy events of the last week from others, but they bear repeating again this morning. So last Wednesday evening, just a week ago, a Pakistani citizen residing in Canada was arrested and charged with attempting to provide material support and resources to ISIS. That subject planned to conduct a terrorist attack right here in New York City, just a few miles from here at a Jewish community center, just 1 year after the attack on Israel by Hamas. And he planned to do that with the goal of slaughtering as many Jewish citizens of New York as possible. In fact, during one communication he had with an undercover, he said, "If we succeed with our plan, this will be the largest attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. So that terrorist attack was disrupted due to the exceptional work by the New York field office, other field offices, the Southern District of New York, and strong partnerships with our Canadian allies and partners like CBP. 2 days later, 2 leaders of a transnational terrorist group known as the Terrorism Collective were arrested after allegedly calling their online followers to carry out violence against government officials, leaders of private companies, non-government organizations, and individuals that were targeted simply because of their protected class. And then finally, just a couple of days ago on Tuesday, Asif Merchant was indicted with attempting to commit an act of terrorism transcending national boundaries and murder for hire as part of a scheme to assassinate a politician on U.S. government or U.S. soil. Now, none of these disruptions over the last 9 days would be possible without the interagency and international cooperation with our partners. That collaboration is absolutely indispensable to our mission of protecting innocent American lives. So about a decade ago, I participated in the George Marshall Center's program in Terrorism and Security Studies, which I'm sure some of you have been there as well. And in that environment, they bring along dozens of different individuals, counterterrorism practitioners, agents, analysts, all working for the same goal, to defend their countries from terrorist attacks. Over 60 countries participate in the class. And throughout that program, the mantra that you would always hear day after day is it takes a network to defeat a network. And then you heard those same sayings from people like General McChrystal during his time in Iraq and Afghanistan. So often when people say sayings like that or mantras like that, people, especially those with vast experience, will sit there and roll their eyes and they're like, yeah, that's just another saying, it's just another mantra. But this one couldn't be more true. Within the first 30 seconds of his introduction yesterday, John Miller mentioned networks. And then minutes later, Secretary Mayorkas mentioned the importance of partnerships and sharing of information. It's something that all of us talk about all the time, but it's going to take us actually practicing what we preach to make a difference. And this morning, when you look at the SUFON's group agenda, I think you see that philosophy in action. The diversity of roles, perspectives, and expertise represented here is truly impressive, and it serves as a powerful testament to our collective commitment for this critical mission. In this elevated threat environment, our success depends on all of us working together towards a common goal. Whether it's federal, state, or local law enforcement, intelligence agencies, the private sector, the media, the academia, and most importantly, our citizens, we've all got to work together to be united and vigilant against the threat of terrorism. Everyone matters, from the most seasoned NYPD counterterrorism detective to the most experienced CT agent or analyst, to the West Point cadets that were here yesterday. I don't see them here today. It all matters. Every single one of us matters in this fight. But why? So I'm sure you've heard from Director Wray and others over the last few weeks and months, loud and clear, that all the lights are blinking red. All of our communities are impacted by this, and none of our communities, Jewish, Muslim, or any other community, should have to live in the fear that they might be targeted by a terrorist attack. And that's why this remains the FBI's #1 priority, preventing terrorist attacks from occurring on U.S. soil or overseas. We're in an environment where the threats from international terrorism, domestic terrorism, and state-sponsored terrorism are all simultaneously elevated. So I'll talk about each one of those briefly. So on the international terrorism front, during the last few years, lone actors are small cells of individuals who typically radicalize online and then look for easily accessible weapons, have posed the greatest international terrorism threat to the U.S. But lately, we've been increasingly concerned that foreign terrorist organizations such as ISIS will enable or direct attacks on U.S. soil. And we assess that ISIS now has the capability to move individuals into the United States, most notably across the southern border, to conduct attacks or support future operations. In addition, Al-Qaeda maintains the desire to conduct attacks against the United States, and since the attack on Israel last year, has issued statements calling for supporters to conduct attacks against the U.S. in support of Hamas. On the DT front, to adapt to a constantly evolving domestic terrorism threat landscape, we have elevated racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism and anti-government or anti-authority violent extremism to be among our top threat priorities, putting them on the same level of concern as ISIS. So there's a variety of anti-government and anti-authority extremists which concern us, especially heading into this election season. They include the militia violent extremists who claim the U.S. government is failing to carry out its duties on a variety of issues and contend that the Constitution gives them the authority to defend the nation from those failures. And then you heard Rebecca mention it yesterday, but it's very concerning, this new trend that we've seen regarding these RMVE actors and online gore and occult movements such as 764 and the Order of Nine Angles. Finally, I'd be remiss not to acknowledge that the third category is the terror threat facing not only the U.S., but the West more broadly, and that is from state-sponsored terrorists. A prime example is the Iranian regime, who's shown to be increasingly brazen in their plotting against Western interests and Western-aligned Iranian citizens abroad. The arrest of Merchant wasn't the first time that we've uncovered Iranian plots to exact revenge against individuals on U.S. soil. Indeed, Iran has a long history of plotting to assassinate individuals that it deems a threat. But we've got challenges as well. As you can see, we've got a busy schedule. Our work is cut out for us in this countering the pervasive threat from terrorism on a daily basis. And then you add the proliferation of online propaganda and communications, which poses unique challenges. Violent extremists are increasingly exploiting social media, gaming platforms, and encrypted messaging applications for the distribution of propaganda, recruitment, target selection, and inciting violence. And then even more troubling is we've seen in recent years a rise in the radicalization of young people. We've seen an increasing number of counterterrorism investigations that are opened on individuals that are younger than 15 years old. And this presents significant challenges for us because recent Supreme Court rulings complicate our ability to bring federal terrorism charges against juveniles. So as a result, we've got to rely on those partnerships with our state and local partners to address these cases and prevent violence. After 9/11, we all turned to the whole of government approach, breaking down the walls, sharing information, working together to combat the myriad threats that we all face. We strengthened partnerships across federal agencies with global partners in law enforcement intelligence and with state and local governments here at home. We found ways to share appropriate information, all while protecting intelligence sources and methods and the privacy rights of all Americans. That network, those partnerships, and that sharing must continue, and we've all got to do our part, everybody in this room. So in closing, I want to reiterate that while the threat continues to evolve and challenge us, the FBI's resolve and that of our partners to counter this threat remains relentless. We know that no one agency alone can accomplish the counterterrorism mission alone. So together, with all of our partners, we will continue to adapt to confront the challenges before us and remain ever vigilant in our commitment to the fight. So thanks again for the privilege of speaking here today and being part of your network and the privilege to speak here this morning. Thank you.